everybody, and welcome to Final Play Sports Wrap. I'm your host, Pete Lubar, and today we're talking Big 12 football in our way too early series, which doesn't seem so early now, with 2 weeks to go till the season begins. Today we're going to cover the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU had a remarkable year last year. They were 9-4 overall, 6-3 in conference under fourth-year coach Sonny Dykes. They routed Louisiana in the New Mexico Bowl 34-3. They beat the teams they were supposed to, sorta, but had some puzzling losses last year to UCF and Houston, and they were absolutely blown out by local rival SMU. So they need to clean some of that up this year. Unfortunately, the schedule is not so easy. We'll get to that in a bit. Offensively, last year they were tied for 31st overall in the nation. Really good. 426 yards per game. They averaged 33.5 points per game for 25th overall. And they bring back quarterback Josh Hoover. He's a redshirt junior. He had nearly 4,000 yards passing last year, 39-49 for 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a 66.5% completion percentage. So I would say he's definitely ranked in the top half of the Big 12 quarterbacks, and he may, in fact, be the most underrated of them all, as his completion percentage and his yards per reception were the best last year in the nation, other than Shedeur Sanders. So he's back, and they'll be in good hands as long as he stays healthy. They've got a couple running backs back as well. Trent Battle, who ran for 44 or carried the ball 44 times for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. They have Jeremy Payne back, 54 carries for 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. They didn't run the ball particularly well last year, so that'll have to be improved, but they do got 2 running backs back. From the wide receiver standpoint, it'll be kind of interesting. They bring back Eric McAllister, 39 catches, 762 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's a stud. But the rest of the guys are sort of unproven. They've got a kid named Joseph Manjack, who's coming in from Houston. Joseph Manjack the fourth. He caught 22 balls for 351 yards and 3 touchdowns in Houston. They have a kid who returns, Jordan Bailey, had 9 catches for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. And kind of interestingly enough, they brought in a kid named Jordan Dwyer from Idaho at the FCS level. He had 1,100 yards and 12 TDs, so he may be a wild card if he can step up to Big 12 play. And then from a tight end standpoint, they have DJ Rogers back. He had 12 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. Offensive line has lots of experience, so they should be better than they were last year. You have Colton Deary at center, Carson Bruno and Cade Bennett at the guards, and then you have Ryan Hughes and Ben Taylor Whitfield at the tackles. So this is a relatively experienced group. I think Ben Taylor Whitfield has the least experience, so he may have to prove himself a bit, but in pretty good shape from a defensive line standpoint. So offensively, this team should be dynamic, and you'd like to see them even improve upon their performance from last year, but it's going to be a pretty good group, and TCU is going to score a lot of points. On defense last year, they weren't too bad either. They were 45th overall. They gave up 345 yards per game and 24.6 points per game under Andy Anvil, and they run a 3-3-5. So 3-3-5 is always good to stop spread offenses, probably less good to stop running game. But they've got some big guys in the middle in the 3. Zachary Chapman moves from tackle to edge. He's 6'5", 255. That's a great size for an edge. He had 24 tackles and 3 sacks last year. But then you have Marcus Deal come back. He's 6'5", 325, and he's a tackle. He had 21 tackles and 1 sack. but a high motor guy, disrupts things a lot. And then he brought a kid in from Washington State named Ansel Din Mabah, a 6'3", 291, so also a good-sized guy at the tackle. And he had 24 tackles and 6 sacks last year for Washington State. And then you've got a good group of linebackers as well. You got Devin Deal. He had 46 tackles and 5.5 sacks last year. And he's a guy who can either play linebacker or he can be that fourth guy on the line if they want to go to that. So it gives TCU some flexibility right there. And then they have Nnamdi Obiazor, who had 81 tackles and 2.5 sacks last year, so he's back. And you have Caleb Elarms, who's back as well, 54 tackles and 2 sacks last year. So the linebackers should be solid. The front line should be solid. Now the question is, will they be good defensively in the defensive backfield? They have safety Bud Clark back, who had 67 tackles. They have Jamal Johnson back, who had 73 tackles. And then they brought in a kid from LSU named Kylan Jackson, highly rated out of high school. Probably didn't play as much as he'd like, but came over. These are all safeties. And then you have Elijah Jackson at the corner, who came in from Washington. And with him, you've got Channing Canada, who was out in last year. And so you should be pretty good overall. So the defense should be solid. Offense should be solid. From a transfer standpoint, they transferred in 12. They lost 20, which is no big deal, really, in today's day and age. But from a recruiting class, they did great. They were number 1 in the Big 12, number 20th overall. They brought in 29 kids. They brought in 5 4-star kids. Terry Shelton, 4-star receiver from Carrollton, Texas. Chad Woodfork, a 4-star edge from Humble, Texas. Adam Schloebel, a 4-star quarterback from Columbus, Texas. Mika Strickland, a 4-star linebacker from Brownsboro, Texas. And they brought in Ed Small, who's a 4-star receiver from Austin. So their entire class was 4-star or 3-star. But with most kids, they're going to have to grow them up and coach them up. But theoretically, the talent is there. And so that's great. From a schedule standpoint, this is where TCU might struggle this year. So they start at North Carolina, which I'm guessing is a winnable game for TCU. North Carolina may have some growing pains with the new coach. And so that's maybe a winnable game at North Carolina. I think they'll probably win that. They play Abilene Christian the next week at home. They probably win that. And then they play number 16 SMU. And at home this year, they got smoked last year. It was 55 to something, 55-10 or something. So you're looking at an SMU team that's going to be pretty good again. And whether they can close that gap enough to get a win is questionable, I would say. And then the schedule, they go into Big 12 play, and the schedule is brutal. They start at Arizona State, number 11. They come home for a game against Colorado, who Colorado will regress this year, but they'll still probably be scary. And then they go to Kansas State, and then they come home and play against Baylor. So 3 of their first 4 games are against teams that are predicted to be in the top of the Big 12 conference. They go to West Virginia, which is always a tricky game. And then they come home and they play Iowa State, who's number 22 right now. And then they go to BYU, who, other than a quarterback, was considered a contender for Big 12 championship. Then they go to at Houston, which wouldn't normally be all that scary, but Houston beat them last year. And then they finally end up their schedule with Cincinnati. So you got some of the tougher teams in the Big 12 on the road, and you've got some of the tougher teams in the Big 12 at home. And it's going to be it's one of the more difficult schedules for sure in the Big 12. The positive side is if they can manage the schedule, they got a really good chance of going to the college football playoff, because that's the kind of power schedule that you want if you want to be highly seeded going into those games in December and January. So Um, I'm saying right now it's kind of looks on paper like a 6-6 kind of year. Maybe it's a 7-5 kind of year. Maybe it's 5-3 in conference or 4-4, and and that would be, I think they'd be pretty happy with that, knowing that the schedule is as brutal as it is. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube page. It costs you nothing, but it helps me out. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Bye.